Hi, everyone. How's this morning? Yeah, I skipped it all. I took a nice bath. I feel fantastic. Yeah, so I have one request before we dive in because I know I have to be very punctual. Can I get a timekeeper to raise their hand at me in 1 hour? Exactly 1 hour. Great. Double up just in case. Okay, cool. So I want to start today talking about the architecture of influence. The way that Ian introduces me is always fun because it's different every single time. And today I'm talking about how to create an experience for people that guides them in the direction that you would like them to go in. Before I dive into all of that, I want to give us a little bit of perspective. So get ready. This is the average lifespan. This is an optimistic lifespan, actually. This is 90 years. Each one of these circles represents a year of your life. I am 41 years old. This is filled out for me. I bet some of you are older than me. Maybe a few are younger. I see the expressions of putting this into perspective. I want to share this because we're talking a lot about our lives, not just our work, but our lives. And so as we look at images like this, using the power of design, it helps to shift our consciousness. I want to talk very briefly about something that I'm hopeful you have all heard of. This is a Japanese concept that means the reason for being. We are here working on almost all of these areas, right? It's not just how do you get really good at your job. It's how do you thrive in your life with your job included. So I want to just root us in that because I know you're coming off of meditation and breath work and a beautiful hike and all of that. So I want to kind of help transition us a little bit into thinking about perspective as we move through this talk. So I have a different job title depending on what mood Ian is in and what context we're in and who we're talking about, who we're talking to. I refer to myself as a business architect. I'm a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. My experience, my background is in startups, many startups that you have heard of because 20, 30 years ago, they weren't so much of startups. So I wanted to give a little bit of an introduction quickly so you could see that I'm legit. I've worked with a lot of these guys. I know I kind of come in and I'm joyful and I'm bopping around, I'm doing all kinds of things, and I think a lot of people are like, who is this woman? So depending on the energy, Ian has introduced me as a co-founder yesterday. That was fun. Head of design, head of development. I was COO for a hot minute. So glad that Isaac is here now. Love ya. I do a lot of marketing, the funnels, any emails that you guys have ever received from Ian. I probably was involved in that. I have a whole variety of skills because I worked in a lot of these startups and have done an extraordinary number of projects all over the world. Quick bio here. I am American. You can probably tell by my accent and maybe my face, but I grew up in Thailand. I moved there when I was a child. I went to elementary, middle school, and high school in Bangkok. And after that, I lived and worked all over the world, like dozens of cities all over the world. These are the logos of the brands that you probably recognize. Can you call FBI a brand? Yeah, why not? But my background is very wide and very varied. The thing that unites everything that I do is designing experiences, right? Diving into this question that has driven me for pretty much all of my life, which is, why do people do what they do? Why do people make the decisions they make? And is there any way to influence that? That's been the primary driver of my life. Ian told me yesterday, that I am the bridge in this experience. Yesterday was all about internal influence. How do you make sure that you're coherent, that you're aligned, that you're vibrating and buzzing at a high level so that you can use that in your interactions with other people? I feel like I've been a bridge my whole life. Even though I call myself a business architect, I think of myself as a bridger of worlds, bridger of cultures, of languages, of experiences. And in the business context, I help people take ideas and turn them into tangible things that other people can interact with. So I'm going to share a little story about how today almost didn't happen. Uh-oh, we're going way back. So this is the story of Brooke and Ian. This was the first proposal I sent him back when I did fancy proposals like that took forever. It's like a 30-page PDF. And that was August 2021. So I'm OG. I think that's why he called me co-founder yesterday, which is definitely not accurate, but appreciated. Ian came to me through an organization that I used to work for as a brand strategist called Brand Builders Group. Does anybody know Brand Builders Group, BBG? BBG, yeah. So I worked with them as a brand strategist, but I also have a design agency. This is what I use to bridge that gap. So whether you need a brand, a strategy, a website, a digital product, whatever it is, that's what I do. I create these bridges. So Ian has a big personality. And 5 years ago, it was even bigger and even more kind of not as contained, I would say. Yep. Shocked, right? So Ian came wanting to build out his idea on Kajabi, which is the course platform. Many of you may or may not know, the place where you log in, that's Kajabi. So Ian had everything ready, he said. He had all of his IP, he had everything ready to go, and he just needed to have me build the system so he could record the videos and then upload it into Kajabi. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's easy enough. Had a meeting with him, felt triggered almost the whole time. Just like, oh, this is a lot. He's very dominant and aggressive. Okay. But I live in Spain now, and so I was like, no matter how dominant he gets, I could just close my screen and be done with this. So I didn't feel threatened, but I felt triggered because some stories that I will share in a little bit. So Ian says, yeah, everything's ready to go. Good to go. Let's do it. I said, okay. And then he sends me a slide deck that looks like this. And as a designer, I also was triggered with this slide deck. And remember these slides? And also, I was aware that you cannot just take images from Google image search and put them in a presentation that people pay for. That is illegal. So when he sent me these slides, I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to put my name on this thing that I built for them, but we'll see. So we went back and forth a lot. And throughout this process, I felt increasingly resistant because he was clear with what he wanted. I don't think I got one sentence out that he didn't interrupt me with for the first maybe 3 calls. So towards the end of this, I was like, fuck this guy, fuck this thing. Like, I don't mean it that bad. I got other things. And so I shifted a little bit of my internal state of detaching a bit. I was like, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze here. We'll see. But the other thing that I alluded to about me being triggered is a story that I wanted to share with you. It's coming up a little bit later in the presentation, but I worked for over 10 years in Silicon Valley. And this was back in the day, definitely pre-Me Too. And I often was the only woman in the room. And up here, I might look very grandiose, but I'm like teeny tiny, especially compared to like a giant group of guys. So I got a lot of unwanted attention. I had a very interesting relationship with power. I developed pretty early. I've looked like this probably since I was like 13, 14. Didn't have an awkward stage. I mean, a little bit. I've got some photos. But for the most part, I matured and attracted a lot of attention really quickly. I learned that with that attention came power and influence. And so I started to, in a way, enjoy it. I felt like I could hold people's attention, and because they gave me attention and they gave me praise, they must think I'm awesome. Not as much the case. I had a variety of experiences. Who here has received an unsolicited dick pic? Anyone? Yeah. Nearly all the ladies. It happens. Oh. Yeah. Not the most comfortable experience, especially when you work with them. Yeah. I was doing a project with Salesforce, and I was running something at Dreamforce, the big conference that they do, and someone that we were working with got my number, and I, at the time, I'm bisexual, and at the time I had a girlfriend, because I thought dudes were more trouble than they were worth. So this guy at Salesforce thought that somehow he was going to convince me with a dick pic that was not at all impressive, by the way. Yeah. Like a full mirror selfie, naked, shaved for some reason, with his face, like everything. I don't know what that was about. So I received it. I complained. And I did not get very much support. Again, I was the only woman in the room. They thought, all of the guys on my team thought that this was just a strange, random thing and didn't understand what my experiences had been. So, fast forward, I'll complete that story in a little bit. Fast forward, all these years later, after the catastrophic explosion that became my life shortly after that experience, I moved to Spain. I was like, fuck this. I am out. I'm done with the world of men, machines, and money. I don't think I want to be in that world. So when I went to Spain, I was going to work with men. I had some money, but when I went back to start to working, I was like, I'm not working with dudes. No, fuck that. More trouble than they're worth. And then I started working with brand builders. And my first ever referral from brand builders was this guy right here, Zan, straight from Salesforce, with big aggressive energy. No dick pics, for the record. No, 0. That's why I'm still here. And so when I started working with him, or explored working with him through the proposal phase, I was incredibly triggered, as you can imagine. And I thought to myself, clearly I've been traumatized by a series of experiences like that, some involving dick pics, some involving like real live dudes. And I had the opportunity to do something that I thought was going to be really important. The work that he was trying to do, the product that he was trying to create, he had the vision for this back then. It was a little bit, there were still areas for refinement, and now we're much more in the personal growth space. But he had a massive transformation in his own life, going from, all of the things that you've all heard about, all his various addictions, the breakdowns, the transformations, the finding religion, all of these things were relatively new when I met him. So we got off of, maybe a call talking about the 4th or 5th proposal. And I went back to Brand Builders and I said, I don't know about this guy. I feel like I get a really strong cocaine vibe from him. Like, he seems like this guy is high as fuck. And Jeremy at Brand Builders said, no, he's been clean for like 5 or 6 months. And I was like, no way that guy is clean. No way. He was. Later I found out that was just his personality. But I had to do my inner work, because with that conversation, the idea was planted in my head, maybe this isn't him. Maybe this is me. Maybe this is me projecting my trauma onto this like random guy who just so happens to work at Salesforce. So I went to my meditation room, my altar, sat there, and asked my body, what is this? Because I felt it here, like in my gut, in my kind of stomach area. And I didn't know, is this fear or is this intuition? Is this fear, like I don't want to get myself in a situation like this again? Or is this intuition, like don't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole? I sat at the meditation cushion, and pretty quickly, I discovered it was me. It was my shit that I was projecting onto this lovely, sweet man over there. So I decided to take the project. I thought, great, this will be like a quick 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe. Build the product. Then he sent me the slides. I was like, okay, this is bigger than I thought. I redesigned his PowerPoint deck, which was 600 pages, 600 slides. And I did not scope that properly. I didn't know PowerPoint could be 600 slides. So learned that the hard way. So I really, really discovered that my internal state was projected out into my reality. So everything that we talked about yesterday, so resonant for me and so deeply connected to what I'm going to talk about today. Fast forward all of these years later, this is my wedding in August. Where is he? Where is he? This guy right here was the only non-family member at my wedding. Yes. Yes. And so happy to have him there. He was gracious, he was kind, he felt like family, and he still feels like family. So I wanted to share that introduction story to give a little bit of context about me, a little bit of background on our dynamic, and also to drive home the points of yesterday that if you're internally fucked up, your relationships and your world is going to reflect that. I could have missed a massive opportunity for a deeply, deeply transformative relationship, as well as like a lot of money. I've been around for 5 years. We've grown a lot. We've grown a lot. So this is, at the wedding. Sandy looking lovely as always. So I wanted to do a brief exercise with everyone. I want you to think of an experience that motivated you to take an action. Drop into this, try to feel it in your body. This could be a person, an interaction with a person, could be an interaction with a place, a brand. An easy example could be how you came into the Untap Your Sales Potential world. Another example could be Terranea Resort. This created a huge impact on me. But what was your experience? Drop into that and feel into something unexpected happening that potentially changed the course of your life. Could be your identity, could be a choice of how you decided to spend money, a product that you bought, a relationship that you started. But think about that internal state. What was the experience that they created to make that shift possible? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so to drop into this, and then I'm going to ask a couple of you to share.
Hi, my name is Daniel Klein. Been with the group for like a year or so. So I attended one of the fireside chats in January between Ian and Mike Brandt. I don't know if anyone else was on that, but I don't want to say it touched me, but I felt really connected to Mike through that. He was so human. He talked about his family. He talked about success. He talked about not drinking. I think he just embodied a lot of what we're all working on. Puts the cell phone away. Like he had really done the work, but then he was so laid back. I just felt really connected to this guy, and so I connected with him on LinkedIn, sent him a note, and I worked at Databricks. He worked at Snowflake at the time, and so I was like, I like you. You work at the wrong company, but I like you. And then we connected, and we just were chatting, and he hit me back up, and he's recently went to Google, and now I'm kind of chatting with him. It's sent me into potentially some other opportunities, and I think that the power of this place is the community, I'm realizing. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that going into the group. When I was training with Ian, I was like, I'm going to become a better seller. I'm going to get better enterprise. I'm going to learn to be this and learn to be that. And even just being here for the first time, I'm realizing that the access to the quality of people here is, I think, why we're here.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty interesting experience for me, and it could, knock on wood, it could potentially change my life pretty massively. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Okay, thanks. Does anybody else want to share? Great. And if you have a really good share, I heard that we can get a swag hookup.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Hernandez, and an experience or a chain of experiences that motivated me to take action was starting with Untap Your Sales Potential, and then some office hours with Ian helped me kind of decide that it was time to look at other companies, which required me relocating to Austin. Davidson then put me in touch with some previous Untap Your Sales Potential members who worked at the company I was going to. One of them ended up being a really good friend who I meet with bi-weekly, and moving to Austin motivated me, with the help of this person and my manager, to realize that I was just making excuses, and it was time to propose to my now fiance.
Oh, congratulations!
And that was the biggest and best decision I ever made in my life.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. All right, I think he needs some swag. All right, great. There they are. My hands are full. I'll give it to you afterwards. So what I'm hearing in these shares and what I expected, because obviously I prepared these slides ahead of time, is a feeling of resonance. Something felt aligned. And I chose the word resonance very intentionally because we were talking about energy. We were talking about vibrations. Resonance is when you play an instrument or something like that, and you feel that vibration. It's a physical experience that you feel, and we use this word colloquially as well. It's a feeling of something is happening. It's almost a magical feeling. You feel it throughout your whole body. And I'm hearing these connections, these opportunities, this love that's coming up, and these chains of events that create that. One of my favorite quotes, and I try to live my life by this, is by Maya Angelou. Rest in peace. Incredible woman. And she says, people will forget what you said and what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And this is something I think about almost on the daily, especially when I'm stuck in all of the things that I have to say and all the things that I have to do. But at the end of the day, people don't even remember that. You're probably not even going to remember that much of what I say here, but you hopefully will remember how you felt during this talk. So I want to play a short video. This is an older video. I looked on YouTube. It's like 14 years old or something. You guys remember before there was Gmail, before there was Google Chrome, before there was any of that? Who here uses Chrome or uses Gmail or uses Google Photos or pretty much any, right, all of us. Why? How can that be? How can there be so much adoption when there was alternatives? Why are we using Gmail? There was Hotmail and, does Yahoo and all of these other options. There was Internet Explorer. Why are we using Chrome, right? Google did something phenomenal. This was during the time that I was involved with them as well. I wasn't involved in this campaign, but I want to share this video. It's just a minute and a half. A minute and a half. But the level of storytelling and emotion that comes through this is absolutely incredible. Today we're talking about the architecture of experience. What are the ingredients that go into creating experiences like this? How many of you here are parents? How many here are dads? Yeah, I think you're gonna like this. Oh, do we have sound? So who here felt like crying? Right? But everybody here is laughing also. That was 1 minute and 36 seconds. It's powerful, masterful storytelling. It touched on Google Maps, it touched on Gmail, it touched on Photos, it touched on all of these different products that go, and Google Chrome. And the campaign was called "The Web is What You Make It." It wasn't trying to tell you, this is what you need. It was bringing you into an experience that was resonant. So many of the things that were shown here are like mundane things that happen all the time in the life of parents. But it is so gripping when you can create resonance. I was influenced by that. When I saw that commercial, I was like, what's Chrome? I'm gonna download it. Yeah, it's great. It's a little better than what I was using before, but not necessarily massively better at that time. So the driving question of my life has been, why do people do what they do? Why do people make the decisions that they make? What motivates them? And how can I influence them? And then I discovered the difference between manipulation and influence. They use the same tools, but the experience is very, very different. They use attention, they use emotion, they use timing, they use trust. People feel the difference, right? They use the same tools, but the intention behind it is different. I'll tell you a brief story. This is me at 13 with my ex-fiance. I don't know if you can tell in the dark eyes of this man, but turned out to not be a great guy. Kidnapped me when I broke up with him for 2 days when I was in university. It's a tough experience. But at that time, I mean, you can see by my energy that's probably radiating off this, I was super into it. I felt powerful, I felt loved, I felt attractive. I felt all of these things. And I could get this guy to do pretty much anything that I wanted. He was my yes man. Until it did not go that way when I wanted to break up with him. He didn't like that. He had built his whole sense of identity and his whole world around me and our relationship, hence the kidnapping. Then, fast forward several years later, I was involved with another terrible dude. You can see a pattern and why I went for women for quite some time. This was at a time when I was involved in an affair. I had no issue with that. I thought, we're all adults here. Everyone makes their own decisions. It's fine. And then horrible stuff started happening in my life, including my apartment randomly burning down in San Francisco. I lost everything. I'm a painter also, and thank God I was having an art show. So all 40 of my pieces were like 3 blocks away from my apartment when this happened. I also was doing a documentary project, so I had my backpack with my computer, my hard drive, everything, and I had left my ID in a bar, so I was carrying my passport. So thank God I had all the things that would be the hardest to replace with me at the time. But I started noticing my life is kind of falling apart. I feel like I'm building this house of cards based on manipulation. Because the guy I was having an affair with was my married boss. I was like 25 years old, so he was not 25 years old. And a very similar thing happened in terms of access to power, feeling like I was special, having special preferential VIP treatment, and him doing pretty much whatever I wanted him to do until I tried to break up with him. And then he completely sabotaged me in the workplace. And it was one of the most challenging experiences of my life. I thought my career was over. And then fast forward several more years, and I was working for a tech startup in Silicon Valley. I covered their faces because you would definitely know this company and maybe even know some of these dudes. But one of those guys was another married boss who I developed a friendship with. After the past experience, I knew, okay, don't sleep with your boss. But I did not understand where the emotional barrier was. I knew where the physical line was. Never crossed that. I was crystal clear. I communicated that with him until the day he told me he was in love with me. I was not in love with him. I had a girlfriend at that time. And things went from bad to worse in this situation. This was right before the Me Too movement. And when I asked for help from one of these other guys who was in a position of power, I immediately came a big, giant threat. We were trying to sell the company, and he recognized they potentially had a sexual harassment case on their hands, and he immediately saw red and was like, you need to go. We were gonna fire you anyway. You know, I'll give you $10,000 if you quit this week, but you can't say anything to anybody. Luckily, my ex-girlfriend was a lawyer, so I called her, and she was like, cool, that's called constructive termination. That is just as illegal as sexual harassment. What do you wanna do? So to make a long story short, I blew up my entire life. I took legal action against him, and I won. And that is the money that I used to move to Spain. Thank you. Thank you. The most terrifying period of my life. It was a very dark time for me. And I developed a whole number of vices to try to numb myself and not deal with the pattern that I was enacting, the lack of responsibility for my own situation and my own choices, because as fucked up as the situation was, I was not completely innocent. I understood that if he gave me that kind of attention, I could gain power and influence. And it worked for a little while until it completely destroyed everything that I thought that I was. This integrity gap was the slide that took the most amount of time, the one that Ian gave me. Man, you guys. And he had all these animations and stuff we had to do. So this is a simplified version of it. But what he was talking about yesterday of the gap between identity and behaviors, I had gone so far from who I thought I was, the decisions that I was making every day, I almost didn't recognize myself. I felt like a hot mess. So I was living right there, right in the middle, in that integrity gap. The line between influence and manipulation is not technique. It's an internal state. It's intention. It uses the same tools. A hammer could build a house or it could kill somebody. It's not the tool. It is the intention behind the use of that tool. So I needed to build a bridge from where I was to where I wanted to be. I needed to close that integrity gap. So what is influence, and how is that different? Influence is the design of conditions that allow another person to move towards a decision, towards a belief, towards a version of themselves that they couldn't see yet. You all have shared a lot of stories. A lot of them highlight this. It was a version of yourself that you thought might be possible, but you couldn't really grasp it yet. And that's why you needed help. And that's part of why you're here. Not sure if anyone has read this book. It is a classic. It is amazing. The Psychology of Influence. Yeah, there are 6 universal principles. Reciprocity, the obligation to return favors, even uninvited ones. There's incredible experiments about this. There's a vending machine one where there was a guy who got a soda from the vending machine. This is in Stanford in a research context. And he said, oh, the machine gave me 2 sodas. Do you want one? And the woman's like, yeah, sure. Okay, thanks. She takes the soda, and then they kind of set things up for 20 minutes later. And she ends up doing this random guy a favor because she got a soda that she didn't even want and she didn't even drink. Reciprocity is incredibly powerful. Commitment and consistency. The drive to align actions with past decisions or public statements. You probably all know this from selling techniques. If you get someone to say yes, and then you get them to say yes again, and then yes again, and yes again, they are way more likely to buy what you're selling. It's this feeling of continuity, commitment, and consistency. Social proof. How many of you went to the Untap Your Sales Potential website and saw the reviews? How many of you, exactly. Right? This is social proof. It's looking to others to determine correct behavior, especially in uncertain situations. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of sales training stuff out there. I don't know this guy from Adam. Like, you see the social proof, and it is a powerful influencer. Liking, the tendency to say yes to people we find similar, attractive, or complimentary. This is kind of where I went down the rabbit hole. Authority. Deferring to experts or figures of perceived status, right? If somebody that you respect, this is sponsorship. How many of you guys bought Nike shoes because Michael Jordan said that they were the best shoes, right? This is exactly authority. Scarcity. Sale ending soon, only have 3 spots left. You value opportunities more when they are perceived as rare or disappearing. I was definitely playing into this with all the affair shit that I was involved in. And then in 2025, many years after the original book was written, he added another one, which is unity. People are more likely to be influenced by those they perceive as one of us, sharing a fundamental identity or group membership. You with your friend and untap your sales potential, right? Many people knowing through one degree of separation, somebody who was involved in this. This is powerful stuff. This like mob mentality, this group essence. It can be used for evil, right? It can also be used as a powerful motivator to make you feel like you're part of a community and a group. These 6 plus unity is the 7th there, are incredibly powerful tools of influence and persuasion. You can use it for good, you can use it for evil, right? Just like any technology, and probably many of the products that a lot of you guys are selling. So I want to talk very briefly about the architecture of creating this. How do you design these experiences? I live in Sevilla in the south of Spain, and this is a beautiful building about 15 minutes from my house. Las setas, because they look like mushroom waffle things. Beautiful. If you ever go to Sevilla, check out Las setas. The most influential experiences in the world are never by accident. Every element is a choice, and every choice is either building trust or eroding it. You think Ian decided to organize these events and structure them in a random order? No. You went hiking, you bonded, you did breath work, you did some challenging thing together. It creates a sense of community and oneness and unity. But because of how far Ian has come in his journey, he's not in the manipulation energy anymore. He's in the influence energy. And I think that's why you're all here. And many of you have been here time and time again. How many of you, just raise your hands real quick, that this is not your first mastermind, right? There's a reason for that, and I don't think it's because it's just helping you exceed your quota, right? It's because there's something deeper going on. It's connected to your sense of identity and community. It's powerful stuff. Take, for example, this hotel. When I rolled up, I was not prepared for this. Ian said it would be a VIP experience, but I had no idea. I'm driving my old grandpa's truck. It's older, I think, older than I am, could be. I was wearing like ripped jeans and a wife beater tank top and just not at all prepared for this. But every moment, I was like on the 405 stuck in traffic. And then when I started coming down those hills and I came into the compound and I saw the big like roundabout thing with the sculptures and a valet was there. I was like, where am I? What is this? And I was glowing. I had just been literally stuck at a standstill on the 405 for like an hour longer than I thought I was going to be. And I rolled up here. This is not random. This is intentionally designed. There are probably dozens, if not hundreds of people involved in creating the experience that we are all now embedded in. I started my career working at Disney. I kind of feel like I got tricked into that experience. As you can tell, I was a very provocative 18-year-old. That's me in Frontierland because I worked at Splash Mountain. I also had an opportunity to go to Disney University. That's where I first encountered the world of branding, experience design. You know that they don't call Disney staff or employees, they call us cast members. Even the executives, even the CEO is a cast member. There's a whole underground world underneath Disney World because you cannot walk from one land to another land because it breaks the experience for the guests. It is phenomenal how good these guys are at world building. Has anyone here been to Disney? Yeah, of course, everyone, right? It's an incredible experience. For me, shocker, followed a dude there who persuaded me. Let's go to Disney. Let's move to Florida, Orlando. No offense if anyone's, it wasn't for me, but could be for lots of other people. I'm happy in the south of Spain. And I don't like kids. I'm not into it. I am very sensitive and I get overstimulated easily. So why I chose to go into a place that is constant overstimulation filled with kids everywhere, who knows? Clearly I was not good at decision making when I was younger. Even though I hated that experience and I felt totally trapped, this was during university. I had an academic scholarship that was renewable for 8 consecutive semesters, and this counted as a semester. So if I got fired or if I quit, I would lose my scholarship. This was my second year of university. I was only halfway. So I was fiery and did shit like this just to like stir things up. But every single night, they would have an epic fireworks show, like bigger and better than any 4th of July, any New Year's celebration that I've seen anywhere in the world. And every single night, I experienced awe. Every single night. I was there for an entire semester. I didn't understand exactly how that happened, but they don't just do a fireworks show. They do a laser show. They play the Disney music. It's a full sensory immersive experience that even I, the biggest hater in that place, was completely mesmerized by this experience every single night. That's experience design. I also was a TED speaker and worked for over a dozen TED events, coaching dozens of speakers on presentation design and delivery. TED is masterful at creating experiences. With a TED Talk, you got 18 minutes. If you're lucky, that's the maximum, 18 minutes. And you walk into a room full of incredibly intimidating people, and you have 18 minutes to go from totally unknown to the TED tagline, which is ideas worth spreading. 18 minutes. You have to create an experience for people to bring them into your world. You have to be simple, you have to be intentional, and you need to hold that room. This is me giving a workshop to TED speakers in Vienna a couple of years after I gave my talk. And now the Untap experience, right? I told you about the origin. I have been involved with every single one of you, and not a single one of you even knew that I existed. That is experience design. Every email that you got, every funnel that you entered into, every piece of copy that you read, every freebie, all of that kind of stuff, I was involved in, curating your experience. And as we grow, we're getting even better because we understand who you are, what you need, what your emotional state is. So we know how to join the conversation that you are having with yourself in your own mind. We meet you where you are and then invite you into untapping your sales potential and now your soul's potential. When this first started, it was very, mindset, habits, skills. And now with the addition of the masterminds and all the things that are happening in the digital spaces, it's, I would say, even more personal growth and development, but in the context of your sales career. All of this is intentional. We use all of these elements to support you in reaching your full potential. It's not manipulation energy, but it is absolutely experience design. It's moving you through an experience that allows you to feel understood and supported, and dare I say loved, and that you are actually capable of reaching your wildest dreams, right? We have examples of that. These are just some of the ones that I pulled, but there's a whole Slack channel full of this. People doing extraordinary things. The awards ceremony the other night, last night, time's a bit of a blur, is so incredibly powerful, right? It started by meeting you where you were at, understanding your needs. Tanvir and the other sales reps are incredibly skilled at connecting with you. It's connection. The story that Tanvir said yesterday and during his speech of someone coming in and saying, I'm ready, let's go, take my money. And Tanvir saying, hold on, let's connect. Let's make sure that this is right for you. This is not manipulation of just getting what we want. This is about curating an experience where everybody wins.
What are the most powerful tools for assessment?
Okay, we're gonna skip that one for time. Can I get a time check? How are we doing?
10 minutes and 43 seconds.
Okay, cool. So actually, I will play that video. It's only like a minute 30. Does anybody know Andrew Bustamante? Anyone heard that? So I, unsurprisingly, was kind of obsessed with spies and espionage and secrecy and power games and all that kind of stuff. So I've been following this guy for quite some time. He is an ex-CIA officer. He was a spy. He was an actual spy. And he talks about this framework called RICE, that basically he says it's the driver of all human motivation. Everything you do is connected to one of these things. I'm going to play the short video because he explains it really well.
One of the most powerful tools for assessment that CIA teaches us early on in our training is a method that we know as the RICE method. And RICE, R-I-C-E, is actually an acronym that stands for 4 other words: reward, ideology, coercion, and ego. The RICE method will show you what actually motivates or drives a person to take the actions that they take. Someone who's driven by reward is somebody who will take action based on the reward that they're given. Maybe that reward is money. Maybe that reward is an opportunity. Maybe that reward is nothing more than a pat on the back or a high five. Ideology means people take actions because of what they believe in. Maybe it's what they were taught as a child. Maybe it's what they believe in their religion. Maybe it's what they believe is right of humanity. C stands for coercion. Coercion is all the negative things in your life. This is when you make a decision because you're ashamed, or when you make a decision because you're scared, or when you make a decision because you're afraid, or you make a decision because you're embarrassed. All of these tie back to a core motivation that has to do with coercion, especially if somebody else is making you feel guilty, making you feel scared, or making you feel humiliated. E, the 4th motivator, is ego. And ego is the most often mistaken of the 4 motivators because people mistake the word ego with egotistical. Egotistical means that you believe you are the most important thing in the world, where ego is simply the way you choose to look for the rest of the world. Everybody has an ego. Even Mother Teresa had an ego. She wanted to appear sacrificing. She wanted to appear humble. She wanted to appear noble. Those are all elements of ego. Ego is not good or bad, even though egotistical is a vulnerability. When you understand the RICE method, and you understand that all people break down into these 4 different types of motivators, when you assess them and talk to them using open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, normal dialogue, even if you just sit back and listen to them while they talk to another group of people, you will quickly start to see the indicators of whether they are reward motivated, ideology motivated, ego motivated, or if they can be motivated through coercion.
Super, super powerful stuff. So I want to invite you to think about, this is just reiterating what he shared. So I have a slide with all of them there. Think about interactions that you have used or maybe that have been used on you. Because if you understand these principles, you can use them, hopefully ethically. Because let me tell you, when you don't, it's painful. You have to pay for this stuff later. It was great while it was great, and then I had to blow up my life like 2 or 3 times. Literally, like my apartment burned down in a fire. I don't think that that's coincidence. I had to move countries multiple times. Like I built a house of cards and then it crashed on me. You have to pay for doing shady stuff. So think about, some of you have side hustles, some of you have your own businesses. I tend to help entrepreneurs more than tech sellers specifically. But think about your own business or think about your sales pipeline right now. Which of the 4 elements is strongest in that relationship? I'd love to hear from 1 or 2 people, anything that comes to mind. Are you motivated by rewards, which is fleeting? Are you motivated by ideology, which is the most powerful? This is like kamikaze shit, right? This is terrorist stuff. Like ideology, people will die. People will give everything for their ideology. Coercion, this is one we always see in the spy movies. Pro tip, coercion works 1 time, and then you break trust. Then you can never, like you have a gun to somebody's head or you're trying to blackmail somebody, you're lucky if that works 1 time, and then you're done. The relationship is poisoned. And ego, just like he was saying, it's not good or bad. It's how you want to be perceived in the world. So I'd love to invite 1 or 2 of you to share what comes up for you. What do you think is motivating you in your business or in your sales career? Anybody want to share? Yeah, great. Thank you, Isaac.
So I think for me, it's rewards and ego, for sure. Being able to take care of my family with money, And then recognition, obviously, like last night was fantastic, Ian. I really appreciate that. And then the ego thing is I'm not egotistical. My ex-girlfriends would say I am, but I'm not.
I like this guy.
I think it's much more like, projecting, competence and independence and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I would invite you even to consider for ideology, because you mentioned something about taking care of your family. Like maybe you do have an ideology that is your responsibility, right? Maybe it's part of your values or your moral frameworks. So it's not like you just live in one of these most of the time. We fluidly move throughout them. Does anybody else feel like sharing? I'd love to hear from one more. Great. Here, you can take this.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Monk, and this is going to be a learning session for myself here because right now I feel like I'm being driven by coercion, fear, blackmailing, and micromanagement that if you don't do this, this will happen in June, which is, as I can see, the least effective and definitely the most dangerous and not much of a motivator besides wanting to put that fear on the customer, which I am currently right now trying to protect and block that does not get to them from what is coming from above. But it's only because my management is feeling the pain that they are putting down on us. And yeah, it is poison. So
yeah,
it's open to something.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, when you become aware of the factors that are driving you, you can reclaim a sense of power and clean power, power that is actually viable. It's not manipulative power, right? It's power that allows you to grow and expand, right? What you were saying yesterday about what was driving you, your inner child, and you made a very convincing case to all of us also to look at that and try to understand how much of that is present in our day-to-day interactions. When you understand what's happening, you can protect yourself from a lot of these techniques, and you also can use them to your advantage. Awareness is power. That's what yesterday was all about, inner influence. So transformation doesn't happen in one conversation. It happens in the accumulation of experiences across touch points. Your boss or your manager probably didn't just come up to you one time and said that. They're probably like riding you. Yeah, this is what can happen. But so can the experience of untap your sales potential. You didn't have a nameless, faceless checkout page and then you all ended up here, right? This is built on relationships. This is built on dozens, if not hundreds of touch points that you have been touched by over your time here. The reason that this program works is not the design. As much as I would love to say that it is the design, it is absolutely not. It's the human being at the center of it. You cannot architect authenticity. The reason you are all here is because of this guy. And it's because of this guy doing his work that this was even possible. And he continues to do his work. He introduced me today, I don't know, I think head of design and development. He's also introduced me as his work wife, his therapist. I've been meeting with him every week pretty much for the last 4+ years, almost 5 years. So we have developed a very trusting and safe relationship where we come to each other with the things that are eroding us and upsetting us. And we support each other in that process because there's trust. Because we have had hundreds, maybe thousands of touch points over that time, right? Some challenging interactions, less and less so as we both mature, as we both grow, as we both get better, right? So underneath all of this is one thing, the willingness to be so genuinely invested in another person's transformation that they can feel it. You are they. He is deeply invested in your transformations, right? And it's not because you need the deal. It's because he actually cares. He's not here to get your money. This guy can make money. That's not his problem, right? He made this choice because he wanted to transform lives. So thank you so much for giving me your attention. I hope you learned something. I have Hamon for you also.